Do you remember the glory days? Late nights leveling, crafting, and raiding with your friends, maybe finally maxing your main after months of grinding, leveling, dungeons, and other risky PvE. Maybe it was finally watching your best in slot armor drop after running raids with your guild or clan after months and finally winning that role for it. Maybe it was the inherent risk of PvP worlds, that you might lose your gear or money, or maybe even your reputation. Maybe for you it was the idea that you were with people that were after the same goal, or working towards a shared goal together. Maybe it was defeating a rare world boss, or flexing your hard-earned PvP rep, and everyone knew who you or your guild was. Maybe it was controlling your own little slice of space, maintaining sovereignty over it, and the intercorp deceit and espionage. Finally triumphing over your sworn enemy and taking what you and your friends have been working towards for months. Being bitter rivals with an enemy corp. And the hard-earned respect, friends, and everything else that came along with that. The magic seems to have been lost in the last few years, or maybe even longer than that. No longer are you embarking on your own hero's journey or making a name for yourself or becoming the best at whatever it is you wanted to be in the galaxy. The concept of sandbox goals seemed to have fizzled and died out a long time ago. Recent MMOs seem to be hellbent on pushing you through the leveling process, the journey process, the friend-making process, dungeon finder, insta-boosts, and the pursuit of perfect efficiency. I'm not here to point fingers and say some games are at fault more than others. They simply were adapting to the norms to stay afloat, to cater to that new player type. I think that's led to the rise and desire for more players to play hardcore and Iron Man style gameplay. It all forces you, or at least tries to, bring back a little piece of the magic that used to make MMOs so great and that we've lost somewhere along the way. And what we lost along the way was community. Before social media, before Discord, even before TeamSpeak, Ventrilo, and MSN if you want to go back that far, MMOs used to be a hub for people to gather and talk to each other, and share experiences, and work towards their goals, whatever it may be, in a community environment, either working together or working alongside each other, on your own individual goals. I'm not saying these communities were always sunshine and rainbows, some of them are actually quite cutthroat, but it led to community out of necessity. You can think of Eve, Dark Age of Camelot, Mortal Online, full loot PvP. This isn't a video strictly in defense of hardcore or full loot drop PvP games, but more an overlook at what's missing in modern ones. What's fulfilling about boosting your character to endgame only to use Dungeon Finder to do everything else? Sure, you may join a friendly guild or work towards gear or maybe even server firsts, or try to be the creme de la creme of the PvP world. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I do think the magic of that has been dying out for quite a while. MMOs have been in a dire state for a long time, and after many attempts to recreate the magic or to give players a little slice of it, I think most of them have failed at doing that. Corporate greediness, monetization, aggressive pay-to-win elements, the relentless pursuit of gear, optimization, and efficiency has either forced players to adapt to the new style or be left behind. You may be thinking that Iron Man is a bad example, since old-school RuneScape players are extremely efficiency conscious. And you'd be correct, but Iron Man, and even more so Ultimate and Hardcore Iron Man, have once again, like the old days, have forced a particular community-focused playstyle. Pursuit of efficient playstyle 24/7 with no end goal in sight, other than stats to drive metrics, can cause burnout and a lack of love for the average person who may have loved playing that game before. Information sharing in games used to be the norm. Wikis existed, sure, but asking for help was often encouraged. Sure, you'd be called a noob, but you'd usually get a PM or a tell or a whisper from your fellow clan or guild members, or maybe even a helpful rando. This came from people who were walking a similar path to yours, or at least were in your shoes once. On one hand, I think modern MMOs are too easy, or at least the information too accessible, too efficient, too hyper-optimized, which leads to this sort of FOMO mentality of you had to be there at the time to experience the golden age of what used to make MMOs so great. The discovery, the community. We need more difficult, community-centric MMOs, in my opinion, of course. This could be a true sandbox like Star Wars Galaxies, Eve before they introduced skill injectors, classic WoW, EverQuest, Lineage 2 before it pivoted more to the automated gameplay style, and many more than I can hope to list. We used to have more options than you could possibly hope to play, but we've been relegated to the same few options with different coats of paint. Lots of dead-on arrivals like Throne and Liberty, or even straight-up scams hoping to capitalize on recreating the magic in some way, like Chronicles of Illyria. Don't buy that. So many modern MMOs fail because they focus too much on the endgame experience and lose what makes a meaningful journey. Of course, endgame is important. This is what keeps your players around after they've reached their goal of max level, best in slot, or whatever. For everyone, the important or fun aspect is different, and it's also a difficult metric to track. But you'd see different groups of people gravitate towards different playstyles, all of which were considered viable in their own way. The pursuit of the meta build, in some ways, is counter to the community-driven gameplay that made previous MMOs great. Sure, there does need to be a best. There does need to be legendary gear, or simply something tangible for people to work towards if that's their playstyle. Older MMOs, and even more so sandbox MMOs, rewarded alternate playstyles even if it wasn't directly useful to someone looking to play the game in a classic combat scenario. Take, for instance, playing a musician in Star Wars Galaxies. This was almost a purely community-focused role that allowed for a game within a game, but still provided tangible meaning and community meaning for the player and the players around them. Communities formed over these alternate playstyles where they would make the fun out of non-restrictive forms of gameplay. One of my favorite examples of this doesn't even come from a traditional MMO, but from Elite Dangerous. The Fuel Rats. The Fuel Rats formed to simply rescue stranded commanders across every inch of space, no matter where you were. If you ran out of fuel and called for help, you could be assured that a rat would be on his way to come help you. A more traditional example of this is new player corporations in EVE, such as EVE University, which gave new players a sense of meaning, direction, and confidence in what would otherwise be an unforgiving and brutal environment. I know that I've been pretty negative so far, but I am actually very hopeful going into 2025 for the MMOs that I've seen, as more and more seem to be focused on the community aspect and allowing non-traditional forms of gameplay. Maybe the dire times will soon be over, or maybe not. Time will tell, but I do go into this new year cautiously optimistic for what is to come. Selfishly, I hope more sandbox-style MMOs come out and are met with success. It's been a long time since we've had a good one of those. Thank you for listening to my musings on modern MMOs. I'm curious what your thoughts and your opinions are of MMOs over the last 5 or so years, and what's kept you coming back or what pushed you away from the options that are currently out there. If you liked my video, please give it a like, and if you didn't, thank you for making it this far anyway. See you next time.